Yom Tov. If we can please have the Sikha on the screen. And we will start with Ois Gimel.
Okay. Here we go.
Before we start, I just want to give the seder of this tonight's Hakel Teiveis Farbrengen, Chinuch Farbrengen. So as we the organizers established that we always start learning from inside, from a seer of the Rebbe. We're learning from inside, and we're gonna learn this sikha, but we're gonna skip just parts of the sikha. We're gonna learn. We start with Ois Gimel, and then we're gonna skip a little here and there. After we are done with this, we're going to do Farbrengen. Start with a little discussion of Teiveis. We'll go over a little bit of the story, step by step, from the few years of the Teiveis story and what we can learn from it and how it's connected to our mission as Mechanchim. So in Ois Gimel, the Rebbe says, Uba Akdoma sheyedua shaila. There's a known question. Lama hutzrechu lenes bishvil lahadlik es neiris am neure b'shemen toer dafke. It's a famous question. Why did we need a nes for to light the menorah with shemen toer, with pure oil? And the Rebbe goes on to say, Adlokes neiris am neure b'migdash hi avodas tzibur. Lighting the menorah in the Mikdash. Lighting the menorah in the Mikdash is a avodah for the tzibur. In the halacha is benegei avodas tzibur yeshnoi klal. There is a rule regarding avodah tzibur. Tuma dechuya hi betzibur. A tzibur is allowed. There is no concept of Tomei. Being Tomei for a Yochid is a problem, but if the entire tzibur is Tomei, it's not a problem. And you can light and do the Avodah Beis HaMikdash. If you cannot do it b'tahara, you could do it b'tumah. V'hainu, as the Rebbe spells out, sheka'an sheri efshe lasei so Avodah b'tahara. If you can't do the Avodah when you're toyer, muter lasei so b'tumah. And what is the reason for that? The Rebbe explains. Why would you be able to do avodah b'tumah? The reason is shekedushas Am Yisrael, the kedusha of the Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael as a tzibur, hilamayla meyo inyan de tahara v'tumah. Klal Yisrael is above the inyan of tahara and tumah. Shalochem, therefore, hashras hashchina beYisrael. The dwelling of the Shechina in Klal Yisrael, he gam b'matzav shel tumah. Even in a matzav of tumah, there is also Hashras HaShechina. The Shechina is with Klal Yisrael always. K'may shekosiv, it says a passage in Chumash in Parshas Achrei, Hashoychem itam b'toich temoisam. The Eibishter is dwelling with them while they are tumah. V'im kein, the Rebbe goes back to the question, Hoye yecholim lahadlik es neiris am neira. Really, we would be able to light the menorah gamba shmanim shebahechel, even with the oil that was in the hechel. Even those jars of oil that were not sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol would also be fine to light, because you are allowed to use tomei oil and do the avodah while you're tomei in tzibur. So that's a known question that the Rebbe is asking. In Ois Dalad, which we're going to skip, the Rebbe is going into bringing from different Mefarshim the reasons, explanations why they needed the pure oil. Different, which the Rebbe says those tirutzim doesn't work out well, and the Rebbe goes into the details. But here in Oisei, the Rebbe goes into the answer that he gives. The answer why the Eibishter made this miracle, we should have pure oil, even though really they could have light with tomei oil. Says the Rebbe, Shekivem shehutzrechu lachanach es hamikdash v'hamizbeach machodosh. They needed to renew the Beis Hamikdash in the Mizbeach from new. They needed to start over, renew it. La'achrei shebotla kedusha, after the kedusha was destroyed, al yidei zeh shebo bo peritzim v'chalalu, because the Yevonim came and they disgraced it. So they needed to start over again. So because it was a situation of renewal, hine, therefore, afal pi shal pi din, even though that according to halacha, yecholim limtzo yehete lasa zois betuma, yes, really, al pi din, they were able to find a heter to do it while they're tomei. Mekomakem kedai lakadosh baruch hu, it's worth it for a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Lasa is nice to make a miracle. Sheyuchlo lasa zois betahara. They should be able to do it while they are Torah. Kedei laharo is chibosan shel Yisrael. The Eibishter wanted to show the love that Yidden have. She'oisi mitzvah yesoidis, that they do a fundamental mitzvah. Fundamental because it's a new beginning. Ascholos hachinach, betachlis hashlemes betahara. Okay, so again, before we go to the lesson that the Rebbe is teaching us in Oizvov, so what's the Rebbe saying here? The Rebbe is saying that really, Al Pidin, they was totally okay, according to Halacha, that they should light with oil that's not Toher. The Eibishter went out of his way, so to speak, doing a miracle. That Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do miracles for no reason. The Eibishter said it was worth it to make a miracle, even though Al Pidin they could do it without, and they can do it with the tomei oil. To make a miracle, to do it with Toher, to show the love that Yidden have, that they want to do a mitzvah betachlas hashlemus, the ultimate way. Okay, now the Rebbe takes it over. What we are learning, what we can learn from this. The Rebbe says as follows: the Inyan zeh, ma hava hayro gam b'yameinu eila. This is a lesson in our days. Ubeloshen nusach habrocha, as it is the nusach and the brocha that we say, she'oso nisim laveseinu bayomim mahem bizman hazeh, which means that the nisim are being repeated. Hainu shenisim elu choizrim manishnim bechol shana v'shana. These nisim happen every year again, and what that means that the nisim is happening every year again, and not only the nisim is happening. Therefore, because it's happening again, the lesson, what the Eibishter did with these nisim, is again for us. Let's skip the next paragraph. Umezeh mubon. Shebeneres Chanukah yesh hayro klolis livnei Yisrael benegei lezman hagolos. In the paragraph before that I didn't read from inside, the Rebbe is pointing out that really Neres, it's actually a very interesting thing. I'll just say it very briefly, that it says in Chumash, the Eibishter told Aharon that you're lighting the menorah is much greater than the avodah of the karbanos, because the karbanos will come a point and they will be bottled. The Beis Mikdash is charev, there's no karbanos, but the neiros will never be bottled. And the Ramban is asking, what does that mean? It will never be bottled. When the Beis Mikdash was charev, they also didn't light the menorah. So the Ramban says that we refer to the Neiros Chanukah, because the Neiros Chanukah is also going on while we're in Golus. Therefore, that's what he meant. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant to say to Aaron, the neighbors will never be bottled. So the Rebbe says now that we have in Neiris Chanukah a lesson for Klal Yisrael in time of Golus. So we go on. Anes she'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'mei Chanukah la'aros chibasan shel Yisrael. The miracle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to show the love of Yidden. Shemadlikim as Neiris am Neure b'shem Torah dafke. That they light with pure oil only. Afal pi shal pi din hoye yecholim lahadlik b'shem she'enei Torah. Even though they could have light with not pure oil. Mahava hoyro melmaila. It's a lesson from above for us. Shebizman Golas yesh tzorech b'mesiras nefesh. In time of Golas, we have to act with mesiras nefesh, which means just like the Eibishter made a nes, which is not the regular, we have to do in our avodah the inyan of nes. Afilu al inyan sheyesh limtze heter al pi shulchan aruch. Even if we have something that al pi shulchan aruch, we can find a heter. We should go with mesiras nefesh, not to do it the easy way out. Ubizem is bates chibosan shel Yisrael, and with this is expressed the love of Yidden. Shemoisrim nafsham gam al digdug v'hidur. The Yidden amoiser nefesh, even of a hidur, even of something that al pi halacha you could get away with. If you want to move on to the next page, to the next line there. Kasher oimlim li Yehudi. When the two lines on the bottom, if we tell a Yid, you are allowed to conduct yourself in a way, even though everybody agrees it's not in the right way of Tahara, because of the situation right now. Next page. We can find a heter al pi shulchan aruch. We can find a heter al pi shulchan aruch. Shemuter loch lisnaiken. You're allowed to conduct yourself like this. Lefisho for the moment. Until the right time, you will be able to do it the right way. Aman al zeh, the answer on it is shekar shel meduber. If in a time when we are dealing with this inyan shel emunah, an inyan that has to do with emunah. Something that's connected with the purity of our daughters. We do not rely on a terim according to Shulchan Aruch. We need to do it with mesiras nefesh. It should do the perfect way, and this is exactly the message of Chanukah we were just coming from. That yes, we could get away with the Shem and Tomei, but the Eibishter wanted to make a nest to show the love of Yidden to Dafke have Shem and Torah. Please turn to Ois Tes. Now, at this point, I'll just say this Ois Tes by heart. The Rebbe says that in Chanukah we see two opposite things. In one hand, we see Chanukah means Chinuch. Chanukah is a time that we're starting from new. It's an inyan of Chinuch. Usually when you do Chinuch, you're doing it the short way, the small way, just like we do with Chinuch. You're just starting. On the other hand, we see with Chanukah what we just learned, that they went all the way out, that they didn't want to get away with any Tatum. They wanted to do it the ultimate way, as we just finished learning. That's the way it was in Chanukah. And now we're going to read a little bit from Ois Yud and Yud Aleph, and with that will be done. Just like in Chanukah, that's the way it is with the chinuch of our boys and girls. Take of mikatnusam right away from when they're young. Tzrichim liten lahem yahadas shleima. We have to give them a complete Yiddishkeit, as the Rebbe, as it's written in Yiddish, a ganze Yiddishkeit, leloi shum peshores, without any compromising, leloi shum aterim, without any aterim. Next page. in order to make sure that even when the kid will be older, this will not go away from him. We can't rely when he will be big, he will go out to the streets. Then we will tell him he has to be in a state of war with the world. We will tell him then he doesn't have to get carried away from all the disturbances. And he has to have Mesiris Nefesh. It doesn't work this way. If you're going to wait when he is big to tell him this, it's not going to work. If we want, asking that when he will be older, he will be able to overcome Nisyonis. We have to do it when he is still a little child. Therefore, the Chachmei Yisrael were mishtadel very much. They invested koiches gedolim b'yosef. Unbelievable koiches. Al chinuch b'nei Yisrael, on the chinuch of our boys and the girls of Klal Yisrael, Shei al Taharas HaKodesh, it should be the best way. Heim nihalu milchama al kol prat. They were conducting a war on each detail. Afilu pratim sheloi ho'nerim chashuvim kol kach. Even details that didn't sound so important. Nefku, they were fighting on it. Sheloi levater aleim, not to be mevater, not to give up on it. Biyodam, because they knew shishnois achinuch, that the years of chinuch, noiges, is so relevant and so important. Lenar, or lenara, for a boy or a girl, I'll call meshachim echaim, on all their life. Yodu, they knew we have to give them the strength, Klei Zion, the weapons, Lahadif, to overcome, to push away, as Kolam al-Hamas, all the wars, She'yelem, that they will have, Bedarkam B'chaim, in their way in life, and as they are going out in the world in life, and that's what they needed to give when they were small. And finally, our last, just two more paragraphs here. Says the Rebbe, Ha'adam doime le'ilam, a famous thing that the Rebbe writes in letters too. A person is like a tree, ki adam eitz hasoda. A person is compared to the tree of the field. Ka'asher oisim srita be'ilm. When you make a scratch in a tree, la'achre shekvar godel, when the tree is already grown up. Azai asrita. And in that case, the scratch, eina, is not ele b'mokim sheneses of belvad. Only in the place where the scratch was done. Number one, the scratch is only in that place where he made the scratch, and even that doesn't cause any damage. If we make a scratch in a seed, show him we are going now to plant. You're talking it could be from one scratch, Yitzmach Ilan Balmim will come a tree which is a balmum, which is damaged, messed up tree. The same story is with chinuch. The same story is that we need to make sure that when the kids are small, that we are not allowing any pshora, and we are so extra careful. It shouldn't be even one scratch. And if you can please turn to the end of the Sikha and Tezrov, just to conclude, the Rebbe says, "V'ka'asher nemodim baderech shel chanoich lenar al pi darkoi." If we stand in this way, the loy peshoras, without compromise, kefi ha'erosh nitne b'Chanukah, just like it happened in Chanukah, that they were not interested in any kulas, and they were looking for the best, even though they were able to get away. Next paragraph, Kishem shebayom hinei Kishem shebayom imahem, just like in those days. Azar HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped us. Shebemeshech zman kotzer, that in such a short time, Nasa Masarto, that he gave over the Yevonim in the hand of the Chashmonoim, those who were learning Torah, the Chinuch as Beis Hamikdash, they renewed the Beis Hamikdash in Neres Keila with such candles, Shemeirim Lanu Ada Yom Hazeh, which is shining till this day, Sha'afilu Mishetishka Achama, even when the sun went down, Kasher Bechutz Hoylech Emachshech, as an outside continues to become darker, Meirim Bote Bnei Yisrael, the Yiddish Heiser, the Heiser of Bnei Yisrael are shining. Moisi v'hoylech, they continue to go more and more. Shebachol Laila, each night, Nase Oir Godel Yoser, the light continues to go bigger and bigger. We are limited with time, and we will. You can. If you see now where the Sikha is, the Rebbe said the Sikha, the third night of Chanukah, Tovshin Yudalet, it's in Teiveis Menachem Chelik Yud, and it is Kedai that everyone learns it and keeps it, and this is a message for parents, and it's a message for teachers, very strong words and very powerful words on the importance on how, with what an attitude, with what an approach we have to go and approach Chinuch. And now, teachers, it's a very special day today, and I want to say L'chaim and share with you, as I said in the beginning, share with you a little bit of Hey Teiveis, and from there, learning about the story and hearing a little bit from some videos that we'll be able to hear some clips and see what we can take out of it for ourselves and for our mission as Mechanechim. L'chaim, l'chaim. If you can please put up instead of me just saying it over, whatever, we have clips from the Rebbe. I chose to, we can listen to a couple minutes to a clip. Please go ahead. This is a Sikha from Tes Vov Tamas Tov Shem Mem Hey. Just before we start the Sikha, just to share with you the Parsha of Dida Notzach, the painful story with the Svarim started it started apparently in the winter of Tov Shem Mem Hey, but it became are we on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can also hear clearly.
It became clear, and the Rebbe first started talking about it in the public, Yud Beis Tamas, Tov Shem Mem Hey. It was a very, very difficult and painful time. So the first Sikha we talk about, we'll hear from the Rebbe himself and in this clip, is Tes Vov Tamas Tov Shem Mem Hey. From there we'll go to Tov Shem Mem Vov, when the actual court case started, and then to Tov Shem Mem Zayin, when we had the Dan Notzach, and then to Tov Shem Mem Ches, when the Svarim actually came back. Please put on the video.
Everyone sees and hears?
Der Sefer von Ayin, das lernt in dem Sefer. Allah es kamen von Anossi wie Israel, und das ist ein Heilig von seinem Leben. Nicht das Heilig von seinem Leben in der Breit, was isst, oder das Wasser, was trinkt. Ein Heilig von seinem Leben ist, wie sagt in der Geres Akedisch, Chai HaTzadik ist das nicht, in Chaim Psorim, das ist Chaim Ruchnim. Also tasten tot der alte Rebbe in die Geres Akedisch. und teilt das gleich auf, aber es nimmt in Emune und Nave und Jire. Wo lernt wegen Emune? Von wann nimmt die Bonnes von der Emune? Oder Ave wie Jire wird das verbunden mit Kima Mitzvahs und Schmiedes am Mitzvahs Leisesse, nimmt das Reis hin, dies vor ihm, in welcher gelernt. Ich bin ein Lawyer, nicht ich will sein ein Lawyer, nicht ich will die Sachen, was ich weiß, nicht das in meiner Linie. A Charlie Rambam, aber das in meiner Sache. Chol Materis hat nicht am Teres. Aber das hat ein Scheiches zu mir. Und ihnen was verbunden mit dem Rebbe, nicht jeder einer meine. Oder ein in den Nigel, oder ein von der Norgeschule. Die Sachen im ganzen Leben liegen. Ich gehofft, ach, sie das soll Cholapoches zusammen ihnen, wenn sie das mir versprochen, sie das echt nicht getan, in den Gewerken bringen. Er schreit, hat der schwere 35 Jahre in der Mohammed und jeder Jahr wird er weiter. Ich gehe dort mit zusammen Menschen, sie sollten es auf mich treffen. Das ist ein Schecker Gomor. Der Hepech ist Emes und Emes la Amite, als 35 Jahre Amite schon wird er noch mehr lebendiger und noch mehr starker und noch mehr aktiv zwischen uns und bei uns und durch uns bei jeder und bei allen, bis in der ganzen Welt. Mit darf sehen, der schwer soll bekommen alle seine Chalokim von seinem Leben. Von seinem Leben nicht. Zieht wie liegt in der Sefer oder liegt in der Ksar oder liegt in der Chefes, in der Ruf lebte.
So let's just take a couple minutes to take apart. This is a 3-minute clip, and just to take apart what's going on here. Again, everybody can look, can see different things, but it's certainly that we have to take it apart and be misbind what's going on. So, I'm listening to it again and again. First of all, the first thing that immediately you realize what a mavil, what a deep pain. The Rebbe, you hear the Rebbe talk, it's frightening to see the tsar that he is experiencing. Then you're listening to the Rebbe describing what the life of a tzaddik is. You know, we are so, we know everything in general, but if you pay attention and you hear the Rebbe giving it, feeding it to a child, explaining to us what is the life of a tzaddik, not his bread and his water, and the life of a tzaddik is emunah, hava, and yira, where the Rebbe describes it. And then the Rebbe talks about himself, which is one of the incredible things that happened in those days. I had a zchus over in that time. This is Tovshem Memhei. We're talking here about 38 years ago. By the Shabbos the Farbrengen, which obviously that we don't hear, the Rebbe was responding to someone who, one of the senior Rabbonim who had a relationship with the Rebbe, not a Lubavitcher, and he saw how the Rebbe has so much agmas nefesh, the Rebbe has so much aggravation, and he told the Rebbe that it's not healthy for him. He was afraid for the Rebbe's health. And the Rebbe said, Shabbos, the Rebbe said that somebody wrote it to me, and so the Rebbe just wanted to give him a notification that if I want to know what to do, the Rebbe says, I look in Shulchan Aruch and I go to Doyle. For the Rebbe to speak so openly that when he wants to know what to do, he goes to Doyle and he's communicating with the Frierdiker Rebbe, those in those times we heard from the Rebbe, the same thing is here. The Rebbe describes about himself. What's my Inyan? My Inyan is my Sidus and Nigla. Then there is another Nakuda, which is very painful to hear, how the Rebbe says that he was expecting that at least Chassidim will save him from this. I don't know the deal with this. I don't know what the story behind this is, what Chassidim were able to do. But in the end, the bottom line is that's what the Rebbe is saying. That he was hoping that he would not have to deal with it, but in the end he couldn't. But finally, the most important thing in this clip, which is just mind-blowing, the Rebbe is talking about this man who we can't communicate with him. Like he's not a normal person. We can't have common language with him. He says the Frierdiker Rebbe is not here for 35 years. If we think a little bit to ourselves and we know who we are, there is somebody, this is Tavshin Memhei, 35 years after Tavshin Yud. The guy says the Frierdiker Rebbe is not here for 35 years, and the Rebbe looks at him and says, I don't have common language with him. 35 years, the Frierdiker Rebbe continues to become stronger and stronger. Chevre, what does that tell us? The Rebbe is giving us clear words. This is not some Chassid sitting by Farbrengen and talking, in saying his feelings. This is the Rebbe saying. Not only that, the Rebbe is saying it to such an extreme that if somebody doesn't think this way, he's like, there's something wrong with it. And that's the way we have to relate and understand that this is the way our life is. This is all Tavshin Memhei. I'm moving over now to Tavshin Memvov. I don't have a video clip. I have from the Sicha Yomis, the daily Sicha that is a discussion for itself, which is so, I'm just going to give you, it's here on the screen, but I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to give you a little bit of what happened then in a couple of Nakudas that I want to bring out. Tavshin Memvov, Yutes Kislev, Tavshin Memvov. The court case started. The Rebbe those days went to the oil every day, every single day while there was a session in court. The Rebbe went to the oil. The Rebbe was hours by the oil. Just a side note, if we're already talking about it, I heard at the time from Rabbi Klein, Olav Shalom, the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Yom Klein, that when in early years, we know the Rebbe used to go to the oil twice a month, Erev Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Chodesh. I mean, Erev Rosh Chodesh and the 15th of the month. That was the Seder of the Rebbe. Erev Rosh Chodesh and Tezvov, the Rebbe would go to the oil every time. Twice a month, that's all. Then eventually, after the court, the whole situation with the Sforim, the Rebbe went twice a week. But that month, while the sessions in court was going on, the Rebbe went to the oil every single day. So Rabbi Klein said that the Rebbe's preparation, this is a fascinating thing, the Rebbe's preparation of going to the oil, even in the days when he was going every single day, the achona that the Rebbe made was as if he is going there the first time. The Rebbe went every single day. The preparations that the Rebbe did was as if he is going there the first time ever. Anyway, so at that time, it was very, very difficult. So Chanukah, the Rebbe then made there was 3 Farbrengens, one after each other, and the Rebbe made a very, very big shturim about Simcha. Simcha Peiretz Geder, and we're going to break through with Simcha. So the Rebbe wanted to make big Farbrengens, and yet, again, I'm just going to say it very briefly, but it's really fascinating that the Rebbe went into a whole thing that really, al pi halacha, in Shulchan Aruch, Chanukah really is meant to be be'ikar mainly for Hallel in Hodah. Just to say Hallel, Ruchni is the way of celebrating the Yom Tov, lighting the menorah. a little bit of Simcha, it says in the Ramah, but to make a whole shturim about Simcha, the Rebbe went in length to justify it. In other words, it's just mind-blowing how careful the Rebbe was, overly careful, that he doesn't want to touch anything and to change anything from Shulchan Aruch. And because he is going, meaning anything of the Minhagim, the way it was set in Shulchan Aruch, and therefore, because he is going to establish a Simcha, a shturim about being the Simcha and making Farbrengens, he wanted to explain it. It should be clear that just because this is a time of Eis Tzara, and you can hear in the Rebbe's voice the Tsar, as we heard in the previous clip, you could hear Pasha the Tsar in the way he's saying it. And to overcome this Tsar, this is the tool to do it. And the Rebbe goes on and brings from the Alter Rebbe that in today's day that it shouldn't be fasting. And you want to break through something, it has to be with Simcha. The reason why the Rebbe says an expression there, an unbelievable expression, that Bezen Shel Maila, according to the Teva of Bezen Shel Maila, that's the expression the Rebbe is using. And the Rebbe is pointing out, even though it's Bezen Shel Maila, the Bezen from Shemayim, they also have a Teva, a holy Teva, a Kedusha Teva, a Bezen Shel Maila Teva, but Bezen Shel Maila has a Teva. And according to Bezen Shel Maila, sometimes the Beis Din says a psak, there is a time of Tsar. But Simcha could change the Teva of the Bezen Shel Maila. And with Simcha, we can break through. Again, what I'm pointing out there is that every single Sikha, that's a time also a little bit, I don't want to go into it because there's a lot of important things to mention, but I do want to say about the daily Sikha, that the phenomenal thing of the schus of the person who established it, that we take a Sikha every day, 10 minutes, a clip, you listen, and you pay attention to what the Rebbe is saying in a short Sikha, taken out from a Farbrengen, and you pay attention, and there is a oitzer, in 10 minutes you could learn a derech in life, in Gashmias, in Eruchnias, in every step. And this is something, look, you see the Rebbe, from one end, you listen to the Sikha, you connect to the Rebbe's Tzar. Then you look at the Rebbe's way of dealing with it, Simcha, in the strongest words that the Rebbe is using, how to deal with it. That was Tov Shem Mem Vov. And now finally comes Tov Shem Mem Zayin. And we will see a clip, a 2-minute clip of Tov Shem Mem Zayin, Hey Teiveis, when the actual Dida Notzach happened. Please.
Was highly uncommon for a weekday. The Rebbe spoke.
B'shas ha'yid gefindt sich in a Maim mit Bilti Rotzui, und a viele, wenn steht noch a Reis davon, darf masbir sein, andere, a wachas kamer sich allein, a das ist nicht a Sach, was chas v'shole mikrehu, oder das ist nicht a Sach, was chas v'shole kidei, wir soll bleiben bei dem Zahl mit dem Magmas Nefesh. Und dass ich bechlau nicht als Sach verbunden mit Bnei Odom. Und wie mir sagt, der Chechet in dem Sipur von der Gjule von dem alten Reben, also von den Teines, was man gehabt zu haben, hat davon Gufo auch gelernt, wo sie darf sein, der Hisofo, und in was sie darf sein, der Hisofo. Für mich hat das angetan, in der Teine, am ist nicht, Poil, nicht aktiv, und in der Teine, am nutzt nicht die Ksovim, mit den Sforim, mit Divra Lekim Chaye, mit den Piulis, von Apostel Sayadis Chutzo, bemeile, dass Scheile zieht das Gehör zu dem Ort, v'chulu. Ich beschaß mir will bringen, zu noch aggressere Ali, aber das ist der einzige Sieber, und was mir, der einzige Bild, was mir kann gefunden als Sieber, zu dem Dover Hamavho, in welchem Matzav Hamavho, und des Fakes, in welchem hat so gefunden, כדי הדור דרוב זול צוקומש, כמה פעמים כוחו, ונוח mehr שלי בערך, in הפוצץ המליוניס חוצו.
To appreciate what is going on here, I have to tell you that I had the zchus to be there at the time. It's hard to describe the simcha that was going on. In fact, part of this clip that we didn't play, and I'm sure everybody has seen all kinds of clips of the wild simcha that was taking place because of the Danotzach. You heard the Rebbe, and you could think the Rebbe would come up and celebrate. And the Rebbe, the first thing is the Cheshbon Nefesh. I mean, you hear, it's just unbelievable. Rabbi say, we have to take a minute to think. We're talking here about a tzaddik, a goen, a kodesh. It's words that we shouldn't even be saying. We're talking about the biggest man in humankind ever. And here the Rebbe takes himself and talks about the cheshbon nefesh that we have to do. And he's talking to us, and he's talking and explaining that the emunah, that Ayid knows that if something like this happens, in other words, you don't just go dance and go crazy. You have to think about it. What happened? There was a time of tsar, the way the sigh of relief you could hear. And in fact, it's not such a sigh of relief yet in this sikha, because the Rebbe said how painful it was, and mavil in the Lashonis the Rebbe is using, that it was a time that there were doubts. And what will they have to learn it? That for sure, if the Eibishter did it, and he did it this year, and it should come out good. And then the Rebbe goes into the details. What was the accusations? That we were not active enough, so we have to become more active. The accusations that we are not using this forum, we have to use this forum more. Another fascinating thing in this sikha, that the Rebbe very clearly compares this situation to the Alter Rebbe's situation in prison. And when the Alter Rebbe came out in prison, this is exactly what the Alter Rebbe did also, that he was looking, why did this happen, and what do we have to take out of it? Anyway, just again, to show, I was simply going in order, Mem Hey, Mem Vov, Mem Zayin, and how in the time of Tsar, in the time of Simcha, in the Rebbe asking for action. And then finally, to move on to a year later, Tovshim Mem Ches. And on that, I don't have a clip, and honestly, I would not, there is a clip of that somewhere. I never looked at it. I know that there is a clip, and I don't want to look at it. At the time when that happened, Baruch Hashem, was lucky that I was inside 770, now outside, but I'll just share quickly what took place, what happened there. A year later, so Dida Notzach was Hey Teiveis Tov Shemem Zayin, and then they were trying to reappeal, and Baruch Hashem, it didn't work for them. And the actual time the Svarim were going to come back to 770 was the day of Beis Kislev Tov Shemem Ches. It was a very special time because it was at the time of the Kinnes HaShluchim. Not only that, the Rebbe announced for the first time that he wants an international Kinnes. That was Tov Shemem Ches. The Shabbos before the Svarim were about to arrive. And it was a very big simcha in the whole world, because the Rebbe, all shluchim from the whole world are coming together. The Svarim are going to arrive. It was already known that Beis Kislev, the Svarim are arriving. So the yeshivas from all over the world started to come in. People were getting ready for a very big celebration. And the Rebbe came out of his room on the way, I think it was the Rebbe was going to the oil. Those details I don't remember exactly. and the Rebbe saw people, Bocharim, and people just draying around outside 770. And the Rebbe was very, very upset, and the Rebbe started speaking. I'm calling it speaking, but the Rebbe was speaking was mamash screaming outside of 770 to everybody that was there that they're wasting time and that's not the kavanah, and it was very obvious the tzar of the Rebbe at that time. And now, Rabbi Isai, let's take all of this and let's wonder a minute. A story of Teiveis, which was such a painful story to the Rebbe, and such a big miracle that happened in Danotzach. And in fact, following that Kislev, when the Svarim came back, when the Rebbe was upset, a month later, people didn't know how the Rebbe will respond to the first anniversary of Teiveis, and people were afraid to get ready because a month before the anniversary, the Rebbe was upset. It turns out that the Rebbe clearly made a statement that this is a day, a Yom Tov of the Danotzach. It's in fact the only day in the year that the Rebbe himself established and made a statement like that. This is the Rebbe establishing that Teiveis is a Yom Tov. It was very clear. Even though a month before the Rebbe was upset with our conduct. So it's very clear that the Teiveis is as big as we can imagine, much more than we can imagine, but at the same time, how we have to relate to it and what we have to do about it, that's not exactly what we did a month before. So let's take a minute and talk about it. And more important, not more important, but from there to bring it into what it means in terms of us as mechanchim. L'chaim. There is a word from the Baal Shem Tov that the Rebbe quotes many times, and in one place actually that I have open in front of me from Chof Ov, Tavshin Chof Aleph. The Rebbe that's a very sharp expression on it. The Baal Shem Tov, a famous taich, Tefillah L'Oni K'Yatoi V'Lifnei Avaya Yishpech Sichoi, that the poor person, a melech comes, Baal Shem Tov says like this, a melech comes out and offers that people can ask whatever they want. And you know, everybody has their own things that what they're looking for and what they want to ask. And the poor person, he is asking the lifnei avaya yishpech sichor. All he is asking, he wants to be with the melech. So the Rebbe says that sometimes we can. The expression the Rebbe uses, we should not. When you go in to a king's palace, there is so much going on there that it's very easy to get carried away with so much before you arrive to the king, because there is so much happening. So it's easy to get carried away. And we have to be smart to just not lose it and be focused. This can be translated in our practical life in so many things, from the most childish way to even a big way, how people can get carried away. Just even a day like this, Teiveis. A general picture, we have a big matzav. It's a Yom Tov, people come together and it's happening, whether you're by the oil, whether you're in 770, whether you're in your own town, and it's a big tumult. It's nice, it's freilich, and we can miss to actually be focused, pay attention, connect, watch the Rebbe, and realize what actually happened. How is the Rebbe responding to us? And what is the Rebbe asking for, from us? As human beings, we are superficial in general. And it's also, the world has a lot to offer. And we get carried away in Baruch Hashem that we are surrounded by Kedusha. So we get carried away by Kedusha things. But let's remember, the Melech's palace is all a Melech's palace. It's all the Melech's palace. But only the poor person, the Oni, says the Baal Shem Tov, only he hits the Melech himself, because we can go by so much and lose the point. Where is this? We can go on with it, but I want to bring it over to a Chinuch aspect, which is the purpose of our Farbrengen here. And before I say this, I want to first give I'm not going to say a promise, but a pledge that there were questions asked, and believe me, the next time, and we are going to make opportunity to just focus on answering specific shilas, because in the end, mechanchim in mechanchos are asking questions and they want to have specific tips. And Baruch Hashem, on that also, there is a lot of training and a lot of classes. Menachem Foundation is offering endless amount of things, and believe me, they're also in these shiurim. We'll try to give specific answers and we'll make time for it. But right now, Noshim Tzidkonius and their shluchos listen to a general inyan. What is the difference between our mission as teachers, mechanchim and mechanchos, and shluchim? So it's very different. And with all due respect, and to be a shliach is the biggest achus. But let's take this apart for a minute. A shliach goes out to a yid that is not putting on film, and he says to him with the whole excitement about the mitzvah of tefillin, gewaldig, Shmiras Shabbos, Taras Mishpacha, and the list goes on. What does the shliach, where does the shliach need to be in order to be able to give that over with a fire? All he needs to be a Shomer Shabbos. He needs to be putting on tefillin. What is he offering for the Jew that he's approaching? He's offering him things that to him is a basic part of his life. So it's very easy to offer. You know, they say that the Rebbe taught us, if you know an aleph, teach an aleph. You know, I said something that's just, it's a joke, but not such a joke, that if you know an aleph and you teach an aleph, that's very good. But sometimes a person knows an aleph and wants to teach a base, then he gets into trouble. But that just aside. But the point is that to come and to teach the aleph that you know and the base that you know, that's very easy. But what's our mission as teachers? All of the people in our little community, we are teaching kids that know about Kashrus, Shabbos, Taras Mishpochet, Tefillin, Shmiras Teiveis and Mitzvahs. They know it. What is our mission here? Our mission is something else. They come from parents who have taught them the basic of Yiddishkeit. Our mission is to instill in them a love towards it, a warmth towards it, a connection to it, a fire in it. That cannot happen, impossible, only if you have it. That's the meaning. If you know an aleph, teach an aleph. You can't give a fire with words. Words is not a fire, only if there is a fire in it. In other words, there is no question. A shliach that's learning and davening b'avoda is not the same like someone who doesn't. But he can get away with it. At least that's what he can think. He can just be basic as long as he davens and he keeps Torah mitzvahs and he goes to be a shliach. We can't afford that because then the whole neshama of our job is missing. And I'm not saying this in a way to brush away questions, and in fact, most of my time I spend just answering questions, tips and answers, specific answers. But I will definitely say that a teacher that can create in themselves this fire, half of the questions will be answered without anything else. Because if this is the atmosphere in the environment, if we can manage to create such a energy, a lot of questions are going to fall away. And Chevra, to be able to have this, we can't have it only if we really connect to it. What I did now with Teiveis, just very briefly, I did these sichas just because I wanted to go through Lokava Teiveis, the steps of Teiveis. But in every day, if somebody is looking at the Gem video, if somebody is looking at the Sicha Yomis, if somebody is looking inside the Sefer, something in English, something in Yiddish, the amount of believable inspiration, and this is also the mind-blowing thing which we talked about, I think, last week also. The Rebbe, who is Geoines in Torah and Nigle and in Chassidus, is believable mamash. And yet, wherever you turn, it's all about just fire and inspiration of Amunah, Yira, and Ahava. That's what the Rebbe talks about, day and night, in every step. I was looking at the sichas the Rebbe is talking Chanukah to the kids, and as much, the amount of sichas, who in the world, well, which Rebbe in the world was taking little kids night after night, year after year, a few times, and giving a rally and talking to little kids and reminding them, I said, I got of them. The Rebbe of the Pashat, I'm talking from a human perspective. How can somebody physically with such a madrega person to be metzamtzem himself? And the answer is because this is the believable of the Rebbe. The answer is he wasn't just a Goan, he wasn't a giant, he's the Rebbe, he's the Nasi Adoyer. And so it is with talking to the little kids, and so it is in talking to the woman. Rabbi say, day in and day out, while people see one side of the world, we see how things are falling and it's dark, and we see so many kids, Rahman al-Islam, falling away, and everybody is looking at that side. I see a different side. Unfortunately, that side is there too, but I see a different side. Every single day, new people from other communities are coming, and I have people telling me, how come you did not tell me about this? How come not everybody in the world knows about this? I am watching these people on fire, and I'm embarrassed of myself that we are just so used to it and so taking things for granted, and we're just Lubavitchers. You know, Rabbi Yoel told us once, you know, when a Yid comes, a Bocher from Yeshua, every Balabos knows that he has to have a Seder and a Kviyah Sitim LaTorah. He has to learn Torah in the morning or at night. If not, he can't be a Jew otherwise. But what happens when a Bocher comes home from Yeshiva, Ben Azmanim? Sometimes this Bocher doesn't open a Jewish book. He doesn't open a Sefer the entire month. I'm a Bocher. I am a Yeshiva Bocher be'etzem. I'm part of a Yeshiva Bocher. I still need to learn. I'm in it. I don't need to learn. He was obviously saying it as a painful joke. The same thing is here. Sometimes we are Lubavitchers, so we are in it. So we are just used to it, and we go with, and yes, boif makiv, in a surrounding way, we are in it, and we have it, and but it doesn't work. In order for it to really impact, and therefore we should be able to impact others, we need to connect with it. Again, whatever it is, your choice, video, audio, Sefer, English, Yiddish, Spanish, whatever it will work for you. We need to find This is our tools, just like the carpenter has to go with the hammer, and just like the businessman has to have his computer. This is our tools. You cannot go into a classroom if you don't have it. And guess what? What we were inspired by yesterday evaporates very quickly. Life eats us up. We need to find time in our day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but those 5-10 minutes to really connect, to raise in. And we don't need anything in the world other than the Rebbe. You have everything, from everything, top to bottom, everything that we need. 10 minutes with the Rebbe, with the focus, to get yourself inspired and go into a classroom. Anyway, that's one nakuda. I want to talk about one more nakuda, and with that we'll conclude for now.
Professor Shlomo Eckstein is a professor of economics and was formerly president and rector of Bar Ilan University. In his youth, he was a leader in the B'nai Akiva movement. He had an audience with the Rebbe in 1953.
והוא שאל אותי, יש לך שאלה? אמרתי כן. השאלה שלי זאת, אני בתור מדריך, וכל הקבוצה הזאת שמדריכים יחזרו למקסיקו עכשיו להיות מדריכים עוד שנה, שנתיים, עד שהם יעלו ארצה. אנחנו משקיעים בילד יהודי את כל המאמצים שלנו, את כל הכוחות שלנו, ופתאום הוא עוזב לא רק את בני עקיבא, הוא עוזב את כל האווירה הקהילתית היהודית, ויש כאלה אפילו שאחר כך מתחתנים עם גויות, או בנות שמתחתנות עם גוי, ועוזבות את היהדות, עוזבים את היהדות לגמרי. אנחנו אומרים, מאיפה לוקחים את הכוח לעמוד בזה? הרבי הסתכל עליי ועל כל הקבוצה, ואמר, אני מבין את הקבוצה, ואני אנסה לומר לכם איך להתייחס לזה. הוא אומר, יש לנו הבטחה, הזורעים בדמעה, ברינה יקצור. זאת אומרת, אם מישהו זורע בדמעה, עם כל הלב, את מה שהוא רוצה לבצע, כמובן בתחום החינוך היהודי, בתחום ההקרנה של יהדות, של חום יהודי, אם הוא עושה את זה מכל הלב, ברינה יקצור, הוא יהיה קציר. אבל לא מובטח שמי שזרע יראה את הקציר. ודאי יהיה קציר, אבל יכול להיות שאת התוצאות אתם לא תזכו לראות, או הזורע לא יזכה לראות, אלא הם יקרו באיזשהו. אני אתן לכם דוגמה, הוא אומר. והסיפור הזה מלווה אותנו, מלווה אותי לפחות עד היום, פשוט בוא נשכח 60 שנה עברו מאז. אתם יושבים בשבת אחרי הצהריים, נותנים שיחה לקבוצה שלכם, התפלאתי איך הרבי יודע בדיוק איך בני עקיבא פועל, אבל הוא כנראה ידע. ואתם נותנים שיחה, פתאום עובר ליד הבית כנסת, איפה שהשיחה שלכם מתקיימת, ילד יהודי. הוא לא יודע מה זה בני עקיבא, הוא לא מבין בדיוק מה אתם עושים שם, אבל מתוך סקרנות הוא נכנס, יושב בפינה ומקשיב. אתה לא רוצה להפסיק את השיחה שלך באמצע. אתה אומר, אולי בסוף השיחה ניגש אליו ונשאל אותו, מי אתה? אולי אפשר לצרף אותו. ועל מה אתה מדבר המדריך? אתה מדבר, אנחנו בנים של אברהם אבינו. וזה מקרין בנו את הכוחות של כל עם ישראל. מזה שאברהם אבינו האמינו בקדוש ברוך הוא. והאמין שבקדוש ברוך הוא אנחנו נותנים את כל האמון שלנו, את כל הרצון שלנו לעשות כרצונו, לקיים את המצוות שלו. וזה מה שעושה אותנו לעם ישראל, לעם יהודי. והנה תראו, אנחנו כבר אלפים שנים הולכים בכוח הזה עד היום. הוא שומע את מה שאתה אומר. הוא החליט לא להישאר עד הסוף. קם ויוצא. אתה לא הצלחת לפנות אליו, אתה לא יודע מי הוא לא יודע גם מי אתה, הוא לא יודע מי אתה אישית. הוא יוצא מהבית כנסת, הולך, ממשיך בדרכו, הולך אחר כך, לומד באוניברסיטה, פוגש בחורה לא יהודייה, מתאהב בה, מחליט להתחתן איתה, וההורים שלה נותנים תנאי. אנחנו ניתן לך להתחתן עם הבת שלנו, אם החתונה תתקיים בתוך כנסייה. בדרך לכנסייה, הם מתקרבים יותר ויותר, פתאום הילד הזה מסתכל, רואה את הכנסייה, את הצלב למעלה. הוא אומר, רגע, איך אני יכול בכלל להיכנס לשם? איך אני יכול עכשיו להצטרף לקהילה הזאת? אני לא שמעתי פעם, הוא לא זוכר איפה הוא שמע את זה, הוא לא זוכר ממי הוא שמע את זה, רק הוא זוכר שהוא שמע פעם שאנחנו היהודים צאצאים של אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, וכל זה מחייב אותנו להמשיך, ולכן עם ישראל חי, קיים עד היום. אני עכשיו אלך ואת כל זה אני אמחוק? לא יכול להיות. ואז ברגע האחרון הוא אומר להם, לא חבר'ה, אני מצטער מאוד, אני לא מוכן לבצע את החתונה הזאת. הוא עוזב אותם וחוזר ומחפש את המקורות היהודים שלו. הוא לא יודע איפה הוא שמע את זה. גם אתה לא יודע למי השמעת, אבל פירות יש.
I'm not sure if the thing was clear, didn't come up on the screen all the words, but this is the most incredible, powerful story. The Rebbe describing to this professor, this is in 1953, that he should understand that everything you say, what an impact you can make, and you don't know who he touched and what he did, but you can save a Jewish kid from marrying a goy. Taking this, are we on?
Yeah, we're still here.
Taking this, translating it in our classroom, I want to say the following. Because I saw the story today, and someone said it to me. This was not part of what Jem sent out. This is an old from a long time. So I wanted to share it. But I want to bring this into our classrooms. Being a teacher in a classroom, the opportunities of elevating a child and making an impact l'netzach l'tzochim forever and ever is countless and endless. We have every day, every minute, we have opportunities to elevate a child ad asof. In Chas v'Chalila, we have opportunities not willingly, Chas v'Sholem, and nobody wants, but it's almost inevitable that it's very easy to hurt a child just with a comment and just with a face, and even worse. I'm talking now for myself, and I want to just encourage everyone. You know, I once heard from a Satmar Chassid, a very, very special Jew, who was a Sefer. This is something that remained with me, and I heard it, and Poshet, it touched me so much. A Sefer, a Satmar Chassid, a very big Yerushalayim, who he had written down every mezuzah that he wrote, a mezuzah tefillin. When he started writing and selling, he wrote down everybody's name and telephone numbers. He had the cheshbon of everybody that he sold to. After 10 years of being a sefer, he went back and he took back, he looked up in his book, he called all the people from the first year, he took back for free. He checked everything, and anything that was not perfect the way he knew now, 10 years later, anything that wasn't perfect, he fixed or gave them new ones for free. The story of Ayid, a Sefer. When I heard that story, it hat mir angehabt a Zitter. I immediately, being that I am in Chinuch my whole life, and that's my safras. I'm not a Sefer, but I'm dealing with Talmidim. And I said to myself, Rabbi Shalom, I wish, you know, in years, Baruch Hashem, I had the zchus to help a lot of children, but who knows? And for sure, it's inevitable that you make mistakes. It's impossible not to. And even though for you, it's one mistake, two mistakes, few mistakes, not willingly, time has passed, but the person you made a mistake on is an impact that chas v'chalila, it can impact forever. What's the answer? Is those people that you remember, definitely you're lucky that you remember that you may have made someone feel bad or this or that. You have an opportunity. You fix it, you call back, you make it up, you talk to the person. But there's many that you don't even know, just like in the story in a good way. You don't even know. I came to my conclusion. I came that the Gemara, there's a halacha in the Gemara that if somebody stole and he doesn't know from who or he can't find the person, the eitzah is he should give the money for a rabbin. He should give it for a community. In the community, with that will be a tshuva for the things that he didn't do. So you know what? I said to myself the same thing. It may have been individuals that we impacted not in a good way. Okay, we can do tshuva by strengthening more in the chinuch to do with others. But let's focus on the good side. How much can we do with a smile for a child, with a good word, which doesn't cost money and it doesn't cost time and it doesn't cost much of effort. It does cost energy, because if it doesn't cost the energy, then it's not. It doesn't have to be not time and not money, but nefesh. It has to be your nefesh. And if you connect with the child, benefesh, the impact Teiveis in a good way can go so far, and you years later, what you can do for the kid, and looking back, and it's a tremendous pleasure, obviously for oneself also, if we need an encouragement to do that. So therefore, Helika teachers, let's for now conclude with this. We talked about the nakuda of inspiring ourselves. Let's just make a summary. The sikha we learned tonight started with, we started off with, we learned about not making any compromises. In chinuch has to be all the way, and that's the message from Hanukkah, that even though they had an option to light with Shem and Tomei, the Eibishter made us a nest that we should be able to do the mitzvah right. That was the sikha we learned. Then we went through the detailed the 4 years of Teiveis with what we learned, what we took out some points from each year. But the two messages that we were going over, the fact, the difference, and somebody may not be happy by me saying it, but yes, I will emphasize again, the difference between a shliach and a teacher, that the shliach has to teach the people the mitzvahs. He also did a job, but for us, we have to give the kids the neshama, the nefesh, and in order to do this, we have to be inspired ourselves. And finally, with the thing we just spoke about, how much we have to be aware of the impact we can make, and the positive impact, and not chas v'chalila, the opposite, just the positive impact we can do on children by every move and every word and every smile we give. Thank you very much.